Next topic is the cold and dark, so low natural light conditions in the greenhouse, outside and in the greenhouse, of course, I should say. We'll be talking about unlit cultivations, but also about lit cultivations, so HPS hybrid LED lights, so lots of things to cover. I imagine different challenges than you would normally have in high natural light conditions, but I could be wrong. What do you think, Lisa? Are there things different in these conditions?
Yeah. When I think of less light, then the first thing comes in mind is the bumblebees, because they really search the flowers by light. If they cannot see well or enough, then they can't navigate. They need some navigation points, and for that they need the least number of light, a bit of UV, green, blue light. So that will be the downside, because other natural enemies, of course, also need light, especially when I think of ladybugs. They need at least 12 hours of daylight in order to not go into diapiles but keep on reproducing. But they search the pest by smell. The bumblebee is the only one searching by sight, and all other
like the parasitic wasps.
Yeah, the natural enemies, they search by smell.
Okay.
So that light is often a limiting factor for the reproduction, but not for the search of the pest.
Not for the effectiveness, indeed, of the hunting behavior.
Yeah.
And what about pests themselves? Do they also need light to reproduce and to?
Often they go quite fast, even though the days are shorter. Or I always have the feeling with short and darker days, pests go faster compared with the natural enemies. It's really hard in those days to get the balance.
Right. Yeah. Especially when the natural predators are the number one solution for these pests, I imagine.
Yeah.
What do you do then? Do you just have twice as many, or?
Yeah, or sometimes we need some extra corrections. These days the neem oil is very popular, or there are some entomopathogenic fungi you can spray, and then you keep the pest pressure a bit down in order to help the natural enemies to give them a bit more time to build up and control the pest.
Right. Yeah. And René, you visit a lot of lit growers?
Yeah. And if you look to the balance, there's a lot of things limited. You had low light, suggests already too low light. And with artificial lighting, we try to elevate it to a sort of acceptable level to keep the plants, towards balance. I would say there's not excessive quantity of energy in the plant, also not always enough nutrients in all spots on the plant, which makes the leaves more vulnerable to pest and disease. Looking at the bumblebees, there you have sensors that actually can determine this is enough quantity for the bumblebees to navigate. And I think also the location where the bumblebees are shouldn't be close to the gables where there are dark walls, but more high and open, to also where the cracks in the screens are, where the light is easier at a higher level for the bumblebees to navigate. There's also a lot of things like the quality of the plant itself by having the right nutrients, the transpiration rates to make sufficient transport to every spot of newborn cells, and then also the root quality. That's also how to keep a certain minimum activity during winter time, especially on the full LED. Now we see from the research also like you need a minimum quantity of energy input. So there's a lot of things to control. And to balance.
Yeah. Of course, the climate conditions have an effect on the pests and on the diseases and on their behavior, but also they interact with the plant itself, and the plant can be more vulnerable in these conditions.
Because you can put temperature, but when it's too low light, you have a very thin cell structure that's easy to puncture.
And you mentioned, we were talking about measuring when a plant is more vulnerable at the start of our conversation when we were talking about hot and dry conditions. You mentioned plant temperature, but this plant temperature, can it also help you in these colder lit conditions, or do you need other update our information.
I think compared to the HPS where we're coming from towards the LED, if you would remain the same parameters on the greenhouse climate control, you would see, like I am doing the same stuff as the years before, but then with HPS, you will have a completely different outcome because the plant temperature could be like easily 1.5 to 2 degrees colder as you would expect compared when you would have HPS lights on top of it, that which would give a completely different microclimate for insects to navigate in terms of light, but also the climate that they're in. And therefore you really see that also due to high energy costs, we try to limit everything, and now we're actually lifting it up to the minimum level a little bit higher to create the right climate. But you need more energy, especially on the top of the plant, to compensate for the energy loss. And also like limiting heat emission is the cheapest way to actually elevate your crop temperature.
Right, yeah. So in the energy crisis in 2020, 2021, a lot of growers were struggling with increasing energy costs, so putting less energy into the greenhouse. Did you see plants being more vulnerable to diseases and pests, or did you mainly see it? We've heard stories about lower production, of course.
But in general, the crops went weaker. Less energy is creating more weakness. Some growers, they say the most expensive winters in terms of energy were the best high quality produce coming from. But that's like energy is needed to make water transpire, to take the nutrients, to support the process. And if you supply the right quantity of light with it, then it's at high cost, but you get the best quality. So then it's looking where do you have the best business case especially when the energy cost is high. But also, generally speaking, what we've learned is that we have to also look at the root zone. You cannot keep the irrigation the same with HPS as that you go for LED, because you just have little transpiration, and oxygen levels at the roots are also crucial to be maintained.
Yeah. And Lisa, have you seen during the energy crisis or periods of low energy input, do you see changes in the behavior of the pests and diseases that of the natural predators?
Yeah, not particularly. Yeah, there are some. Yeah, some crops have. Some minimum temperatures they need. For example, in the pepper, it is not possible to go lower. They need this energy and to get your plant started. And often, specifically for the peppers and other more tropical crops, you see that this is not a challenge for natural enemies. Above 15 degrees, they never go below 15. Then it's no problem. But in other crops, outdoors of course, but also, for example, in strawberry, they go much lower during the night, and there we see some challenges of keeping up your natural enemies, because below let's say 9 or 8 degrees, they go into a kind of inactive state, and they need some time during the day to warm up and get active again. So that's also important when you decide to go scouting for pests and natural enemies, to check what your balance is in your crop. Please don't go scouting very early in the morning, because then it's and too dark, but also too cold for them to get active. And it's of course easier to see active insects moving. If I think about Macrolophus, which is green, your plant is also green, so it's hard to see them when they're not active. Once you see them moving, you can scout them better.
Paul,
no, I have nothing to add. No. The thing is that I was involved in LED BCOs and everything, but the thing is that in winter there is, for me as a consultant, not so much to say. Beside that of course we can make greenhouses more lighter with special coatings to add anti-reflection. So add anti-reflection coatings, and it helps. You can win say 2-3% outside and inside, which is beneficial. But if you have two screens closed, you still lose a lot of light, and you want to isolate everything. So So the thing is that in winter I'm always busy with well, you cannot see, but the pipes are really brown to get even temperatures inside greenhouses with special pipe paints and everything. So in the winter, I'm always doing different things and on the other side of the world, where the sun shines.
When I think of lightning, there are some natural enemies that do not always are a good combination with the lighting. If I think of, for example, in the pepper, we use aureus to control thrips. It's a predatory bug to control thrips. But before we tried it in different lighted crops, and there the light was so attractive for them, so they kept flying towards the light and damaged their wings, and in the end they could not go into the greenhouse searching for the pest because the wings are damaged.
We had the same thing when I was younger with hippodamias. We had bags with 10,000 hippodamias taken out of the grotten, how do you say that?
Cave.
Out of the caves at that time. That was allowed at that time. And then we used on 26,000 square meters 999,000 hippodamias, ladybugs, a year. But we found out that if we spread them during the day, they flew up because of the light. Yeah. So we did that at the end of the day when the sun went down at around 10. So you started at 5 in the morning harvesting and picking, and then you went back in the evening for the ladybugs, and then they were inside the greenhouse on the biorhythm. Yeah, so you really need to think of when is the best time for this or for that. So it's really good that you like scouting but also introducing good insects. When is the best moment to introduce? You can do that really early in the morning when it's cold, but they also like to have a good climate to work like we do.
Often it's not that the darkness is the limiting factor, but often it's the light. When it's too much light, they're so attracted by the light, and bumblebees can even be blinded by the light. So if there's too much light, they that can also be a limiting factor. So again, we are back at the balance again.
It is. It's all about balance.
This is curious. Blinded by the light, like blinded by natural light, or blinded by, for example, HPS?
HPS.
Right. All right. So closing this topic off, I think if I can summarize it, we talked about the cold and dark conditions. It's much more important to scout and to anticipate, because natural predators are having a more difficult time than the pests typically in these conditions. And we also talked about keeping the plants active, having some transpiration, making sure that they are healthy and able to fight off insects and diseases. So keeping a plant more resilient is especially important when you're trying to save energy, insulating the greenhouse, putting in less and less energy. I think we also have some information on that on the website, and I think that René, you would be also able to help growers try to get a more active climate when trying to save energy.
But then again, it's more it's easy to put on extra heating, but that's quite costly. I would still recommend like limiting heat emissions, so the radiation to the colder surfaces. It's a sort of a no-brainer win-win.
But also your humidity. So if you have a high humidity, you need to have extra energy to warm up the greenhouse. So if you have a lower humidity in winter, it costs less energy. So everything helps. Just common knowledge. Just think normal. What would you think and what would you do inside your house, with your body, yourself, or with plants? So if you,
that's where now we see more and more the use of external air, which is called an air dryer. And then heating drier air is cheaper as heating humid air. That's true.
So that's something people need to realize.
All right. Thank you guys.
Please.